So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the pro-Starmagoon who is now looking to vote for Nigel Farage and Reform. So I saw this tweet and I was amazed at how stupid this guy is. To be honest with you, like he has really bad tweets generally, but I saw this one and it kind of scared me a little bit because this centrist dad thing, which is like a jive at like middle-aged dudes who didn't really understand politics but wanted to play with the big kids basically. And so he goes, here's why I think more liberal centrist dad types like me might end up voting for reform at the next general election, more than you imagine. Assume it won't happen at your political peril. And so, people replying to him saying, you make every post about Brexit, how are you going to vote for Farage? Because there are no anti-Brexit parties with a national standing, which is not true. The Lib Dems and Green exist. So it's not an issue that is available for me to vote on, he goes, the Greens. And he goes, the Green policy on Europe is to push for closer ties to the EU. Given most of their policy agenda is not my cup of tea, sorry, closer ties does not cut it. So clearly, even though there is a party that has national standing that does want to rejoin the EU, he's saying no to them because of nonsense. And so I asked him to find a weakness. I didn't get a reply, but that makes sense. He goes, I'm flirting with voting reform. Might surprise you, but I'm not alone. Reform's success in last week's election was no fluke. The latest YouGov poll puts them at 29%, which they would get an election bounce because they've done quite well. The key is, will they be able to hold it? I think that's something pollsters have said. The reason why is simple. The other parties are offering more of the same when Britain is in badly need of change. And this is what I've been saying for a while. Reform are offering things that are different, but not really, because they've tried to push this nonsense for ages. Let's start with Labour. Despite being a Remainer, I'm basically centre-right in political outlook, and that's one of the things like people that are pro-EU don't understand. There are a lot of like people who are centre-right / right-wing who would have been pro-EU at the time. He goes, capitalism, free markets, free trade. I really don't like wokeness at all, despite having experienced the worst of it firsthand in my professional life. So I'm assuming a woman or a minority person or a combination of the two got promotion over him or something, and he's upset about that, which is okay, whatever. He doesn't really explain why, what happened. So I'm assuming he's just mad that maybe probably a woman probably got promotion over him. Given that I feel paternally or preternaturally, I don't even know what that word is, tilted against Labour, I don't mind Starmer. That's surprising. I thought it'd be the other way around. He wouldn't mind Labour but would dislike Starmer, given that Starmer's like wet cement. They are the party of union and big government and have demonstrated that repeatedly already in government. I mean, it's literally Starmer's government that are doing this. He talks about the national insurance tax increase, which I agree is ridiculous. He goes, I like them more than the Lib Dems though. I should feel kinship with Ed Davies' party. They are the most obviously Remainery of the lot, but their actual proposal on Europe would spell disaster. He talks about a customs union, which a customs union is fine. Literally, Turkey's in a customs union with the EU. So he's saying this because he doesn't want to support the Lib Dems. He talks about the Conservative Party being awful. So what he's saying is, I don't want to vote for the Lib Dems because they are pro-EU, not in the way I like. And then he talks about the Reform Party. He goes, you might not like them, but it's clear what they stand for. Their pitch is essentially that the Tories and Labour both screwed up, so why trust them again, which again is pretty basic. I've spent a reasonable amount of time with Reform activists and organisers over the last month. I can tell you, can I let you in a little secret? They aren't fascists, or in most instances, even particularly right-wing. I mean, I struggle to believe that for the most part. That most of people are sick of politics works, looking for something different. I guess that could be partly true. Again, you have to look at the polling on what they actually want, and most of them, the polling or polls highest is immigration, followed by the cost of living crisis. Because they feel ignored and discarded. And I've got a little secret for you, Chief. The Reform Party aren't going to do anything for these people who feel abandoned. Definitely not. Trump said the same, used the same language. He made living costs higher for people in America. Reform seem serious about curbing the worst elements of wokeness, which again I have no idea what that means, which the Tories resolutely failed to do while in government. They appear to actually believe in Brexit, which I'd prefer to what we've had before and what we had now, the awkward in-between. I'm a rejoiner, but I'm firmly of the opinion we either rejoin full stop or genuinely try and make the most of Brexit, which is a dumb take because you can't. Joining the EU has steps. So if you want a party that wants to fully rejoin the EU, I think that would be the Lib Dems, but it'll take a while. He goes, I've come to this position, He goes, I'd prefer we abandoned it, but no party is proposing that. Why not give Nigel a go? Said every ex-wife. Every one of his ex-wives. He goes, I've come to the position of exhaustion. I so thoroughly dislike the offer from Labour and the Lib Dems, and the Tories don't in fact have an offer. Reform looks good just by dint of having a clear direction of travel. Again, Reform's plans are complete garbage because they're going to put a massive hole in the economy, which we'll discuss. And this guy, not even that long ago, in January, he goes, he's mocking Corbyn voter for switching to Reform.
I voted Jeremy Corbyn in 2019. I'm fundamentally a populist. I'm against the establishment. The establishment, Labour and Tory, have failed us. Tories for the last 14 years, Labour before them, and they opened the doors and everything that went on with that. I've actually had a look this morning where the highest turnout was and where the lowest turnout. The highest turnout was in Winchester, it was in Cambridge, it was Liberal, Lib Dem and Labour seat stronghold, right? The lowest turnout, you were looking at 25% in some cases, was in Yorkshire and the Humber, and it was in Lincolnshire.
So, he's explaining why he was going to vote Reform, which again, Nigel Farage is not anti-establishment, it very much is part of that. But, Nick Tyrone saying, doesn't shock me at all, Corbyn support would turn to Farage. Both Corbyn and Farage represent a particular type of student politics, both despise liberalism and want to destroy a perceived establishment. So I guess you're a big fan of student politics, aren't you, dickhead? And if we look at Reform's actual policy platform, this is what Nigel Farage put out recently in the Mail. No income tax below 20 grand, which, we've discussed before. That on paper is a good policy. Is it economically feasible? No. Appoint a minister for deportations, again, just red meat. Ditch net zero, red meat, because, again, net zero is actually good. It's just the way we've set up our dumb energy system. Scrap inheritance tax under 2 million, dumb policy. End a war on farmers and pensioners. I mean, there isn't a war on farmers or pensioners. We've just taken away their winter fuel allowance, which, okay, I wasn't, I actually thought it was a good policy to keep it, but, I'm not going to go to bat for pensioners. Drill, baby, drill, which, again, is just more licenses in the Red Sea. Not the Red Sea, sorry, off Scotland. So, nothing that different from what they were proposing earlier. And you see here, The Economist estimates that the annual costs of Reform UK's manifesto would be around £200 billion and savings of around £100 billion. The gap would be a colossal fiscal shock, blowing up the deficit and straining the gilt market to its limit. So that's Nigel Farage there with his great plans, and the only way he'll fund it is through massive cuts to social care, massive cuts to public spending, and the NHS and things like that. And you got this guy here, he goes, I'm voting for Donald Trump for the economy and to own the libs. He goes, well, they want my shoe business. Don't understand why tariffs have to eliminate the de minimis exemption, which is for small imports. Why does government punish small businesses in this country, knowing full well that Nike and all the big brands will be fine paying the tax, but Sheffy and I get wiped out? This guy putting, I'm sorry to hear about your business. I hope owning the libs made it worth it. Somehow the second sentence makes me doubt the sincerity of the first. This is hilarious. So yeah, this is great stuff. I love this. But this is how this guy will end up when he votes for Reform, and if Reform win. Because they want things like insurance-based system for healthcare. So the question is, do you want an insurance-based system that other countries in Europe have, or do you want or Canada, or insurance-based system like the US have? Because I guarantee you, if this guy wins, he'll talk about the French model, the German model, and then once they win, they'll immediately switch to the US model, which you have this person here. It's tragic. He's battling stage 4 lung cancer. Was preparing to fly across the country for double lung transplant when his insurance company denied him coverage. This could be the reality in Britain if Nigel Farage wins. I'm dead serious about that. You got this person arguing that Nigel Farage isn't far right.
Reform can just come in and say, listen, we've never governed, we haven't, and we can just promise you anything. And they're really good at it
because the media don't hold them accountable, which is something I'll discuss in another video.
They're really good at going in on sort of core voter worries, winter fuel payments, deindustrialisation. I mean, Farage is being very clever. He's tacking right and he's tacking left. I know
because he's a populist. That's what populists do. You look at popular policies and you agree with certain left principles, like wages are too low in this country. And what will he do? He won't talk about the bosses or the owners being greedy. He'll immediately blame immigrants.
I know a lot of people from the Labour camps keep talking about, we don't want a far-right government. Farage is not going far-right. Farage is just picking...
He went for the most right-wing Brexit you could have gone for.
And picking from the left, the right, the centre, and just appealing to what everyone wants.
It's almost as if he was a Liberal Democrat, isn't it?
Utter woke nonsense. That's what he's saying there. It's utter woke nonsense. The idea he's anywhere near a Liberal Democrat is crazy. When you look at their policy platforms, one's talking about improving social care, the other one would gut social care. He has a long history of saying things, and that's what needs to be looked at. Journalists just not doing their jobs here. Sort of Zach Polanski, explaining, Labour shifting further right to reforms agenda. The Greens are the best left challenger to the right. Polanski running to be the leader of the Green Party. Let's see if he can actually do something with that. Should be interesting. And here's Tice getting rinsed by a leader of a trade union.
Party in the UK, and certainly none of the parties represented around this table are offering solutions to the issues that we face. Labour have moved further and further away from the average working class person, to a point where communities like this in Hull, like the one where I'm from in Wakefield, which would have always elected Labour representatives, particularly here in Hull, have turned to Reform.
Which is not surprised considering, deindustrialisation. There's no real policy platform for Labour to really help these kind of left behind areas out.
But I want to be really, really clear, because I don't think Richard Tice and I don't think Nigel Farage or Reform are the answer. Reform, and we've just heard it, are offering nothing for working people. They
voted against the workers' rights bill that came out recently.
Nothing on what is a rigged economy. They're offering nothing on how we're going to tackle privatisation. In fact, what you were just saying is we'll negotiate better contracts.
This is the guy who said, when asked about private healthcare companies, he said he would give it to NGOs, non-governmental organisations and charities. So, this guy on healthcare, he's a joke.
Nothing on the NHS, nothing, can I finish please? Nothing on a crumbling infrastructure of transport, nothing on wages and the crippling cost of living, nothing on a housing crisis. All Reform stands for is a status quo politically, but with an added dose of finger pointing.
But Jo, why do you think people voted for them?
I'm getting onto that, but I think that there's a real issue because it wasn't immigrants that were cutting council funding in Hull; it was politicians.
Facts. It's austerity. Austerity did so much damage to local councils. It's actually astonishing. Like something I haven't covered enough of, to be fair. You got local councils playing Monopoly with borrowed money from the government, and you see Woking's in £1 billion worth of debt, and just you're a goddamn council.
It wasn't immigrants who were slashing school budgets in Hull, it was politicians. And Reform would have been doing those things too. But what I think is, you are offering people, I think you're being fraudulent. I think you're offering people the suggestion that you're going to change.
It's thanks to... Hang on, let her finish and I'll let you back
things. But when you've just been asked how you're going to change things, all you gave was code.
So, Woking Council, right, is in £2.1 billion worth of debt with £1.3 million worth of interest alone. It's a goddamn council, because the government, instead of actually funding these councils properly, said, look, we're going to cut the amount you have, but we're going to give you loans, and then you're going to have to pay those back. So they played Monopoly with that money.
We're going to privatise more. And this is the truth that working class communities need to hear. We have to come together. We have to join trade unions. We have to tell the political class, whether they're Reform, whether they're Labour, whether they're anyone else, because Nigel Farage and you are members of that political class, that we aren't having...
He's a rich boy. And this is it. And you had Keir Starmer talking about we need to lower immigration, all of this stuff. It just appeals to people like this who have no idea what they're talking about.
What are your concerns?
My main concerns are to do with homelessness. I feel that there's a big issue with it at the moment, and although the Chesterfield Council are trying, there is a massive backlog of local residents that do not have a home to live in. So when the
So this is classic. What they do is they pit asylum seekers against homeless people. And when you ask them what you're going to do for homeless people, they'll say nothing. It's their own fault.
Of those at the Sandpiper Hotel are housed and fed and clothed and with no expectations of working.
It's because they can't. This is what I mean, how this person, the host of the show or anyone else is not pushing back on this, saying they're not allowed to work. If they were allowed to, they probably would. A lot of them don't like being stuck in hotels for 3 years. It's honestly not difficult to do basic journalism.
Giving back to the society, it enrages local residents like myself.
What do you say in response? We've got two politicians here amongst our guests. Shannon, what do you say, Josh, to her?
Now, do you think he's going to push back on the idea that asylum seekers can't work in this country?
I mean, the bottom line, Shannon, is that I talk about this a lot with my constituents in Makerfield, which is in Wigan, where there were two asylum hotels and there were also houses of multiple occupancy paid for by the Home Office. It enrages me too. When I see a constituent who is homeless and down the road I see a new Serco HMO that's opened up, paid for by the Home Office.
So your party's in government. Why are your party paying Serco to do this stuff? Why is the Home Office not running these houses? Or, you know, why is there no dedicated facility for this stuff?
That's wrong. And there's no two ways about it. It is outrageous that a system has been allowed to develop in this country that effectively says to local people all over the United Kingdom, just like you, Shannon, we are the Home Office going to come in, we're going to take a hotel away, we're going to fill it because we failed to run our system. And in the meantime...
It's crazy work. I mean, he just reinforced our right-wing view. And, you know, this situation with Channel Crossing is not going away anytime soon unless they set up that processing centre in France, which they refuse to do. This is monumental levels of stupidity just feeding into the right-wing narrative. They might as well just feed Farage. Honestly, they are hoping he wins at this rate. They're giving him everything he needs to win. I'm doing a separate video on, you know, why I think the media are going to basically let Farage come into power and how easy it's going to be for him, because they refuse to actually accept that. He's been in politics for a long time. He said a lot of things and they will refuse to hold him accountable to anything because Reform are, quote, a new party. They're just a rebrand of UKIP, an old party. Ridiculous. But anyways, yeah, I just want to discuss this absolute clown backing Nigel Farage. And yeah, I'm not even surprised, to be honest with you. The illiteracy in these think tanks and media organisations is just crazy, man. But anyways, I'll leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.